In the grip of a global pandemic, one man faced a battle on two fronts. Infected with the deadly swine flu, his life hung in the balance. But it was one controversial plant that often was misunderstood that offered him a lifeline. Let's dive in.
I love it.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Organically Blunt. I am Jay Blaze, your host, and this evening I have the pleasure and the opportunity to speak with Sly, aka Loco. Welcome to the Organically Blunt show, and I gotta give credit where credit is due before we dive into things. If it wasn't for Chad Westport recommending this story, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. So shout out to Chad for giving us a great guest to speak with this evening.
Thanks, man. Huge shout out to Chad, man. He's a great interviewer or interviewee. I had a great time having him on my show.
Definitely. He's been on our show twice now, and he's always got great knowledge to spit. And he is one of the people in the, I guess you'd say, one of the men in the industry that almost everybody knows, and he's what I consider an OG legend. And anytime he speaks, I just listen.
Yeah, right. I like to call him the pillar. He's one of the pillars in the community, definitely holding us all up and just spreading the word and making it just to where we all could spread this knowledge and know about growing plants and shit.
Definitely. So, I want to dive right into things. And, this is your story of not only being an addict, but you got that double punch. You got the swine flu along the journey as well. And my question I want to start out with is how did you get it?
So this is a weird question because I wish I would be able to tell everybody, hey, I got it from this thing, right? But I don't really know where I got it from. Now I think I was working on this is back in 2016, by the way. It was before the global pandemic, so that's why when the global pandemic came around, I had already heard of the machine to keep you alive, the ECMO machine, because that's what they had put me on. But so I think I was a big meth head at this time. So I was methed out, and I went and worked on a toilet, but I wasn't getting sleep, and I wasn't eating, and all the stuff that you need for your immune system to be very strong. So I went and worked on the toilet, and I didn't have any mask on or anything, and I think that's where I got it from.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
So what had happened was I was sitting there, I was all twacked out, I wasn't eating, I went and worked on that toilet, and then the next week, I think it was like 2-3 days after that, I was getting sick, and I was really, really, really sick. Went to the doctor for the first time, and they were like, "Is this the most sick you've ever been?" And I'm like, "Yes, like definitely. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm just like beat up." And they're like, "Well, we don't really know what to do for you. We just know that you're sick, so we're gonna send you home." So I was like, "All right, well, whatever." And there was Tamiflu, I think it is. There's a drug that they were trying to give to me to help for this flu, but I couldn't afford it. So I just went home, and next thing I know, I was sitting there trying to, I think I went on the toilet. I went and used the toilet, and I couldn't breathe. And I came out, and I told my wife, I'm like, "Hey, call 911. I can't breathe. I can't breathe." Well, at this time, she kind of froze she didn't know what to do either. She was like, "What?" And I'm like, "I can't breathe. Call 911." And she's like, "What?" And so I called them. And I called 911, and I'm like, "Yo, I can't breathe. I can't breathe." And I was 400, almost 350, almost 400 pounds at this time too. So because I was swelling up from the alcohol. I was a big alcoholic, and I couldn't function without drinking. So I was a meth head and an alcoholic at the same time, right? And so the ambulance comes, and they come pick me up, and they just keep asking me, "What happened? What happened? Why can't you breathe?" And I'm just like, "Dude, I don't know what the hell's going on." And then they get me into the ambulance. They get me into the hospital, and it's like the movies. Like the doors busted in. I saw the light of the lights when you're going in the hall, and then that was it. I was gone.
Wow.
And after that, I was off on a journey that I went on to. If you don't mind, I'm going to tell that story.
No, this is your story. You can tell it
So,
how you want, and you have the microphone, so you can just go as you please.
cool. So that's what happened. So I just was like, whoa, like gone. And next thing I know, I'm floating in some pink clouds. The only way that I can describe it is like kind of like Dragon Ball Z when Goku's walking up on the snake road, and there's this cloud, these pink clouds around. Now I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan, so I think that's why I was going through that. Everybody sees their own thing, you know. Everybody sees whatever they have done in their life and their stuff. So, anyways, I was floating, and all of a sudden, I heard hell. I've heard hell before because back when I was a druggie, I would like huff gas. I don't know if you guys ever knew about that, but I was huffing gas one time, and I heard this music. I went into this hallucination, and I heard this evil fucking music, man, and I bursted out of it right in this hallucination back in the day. Well, when I was in the coma, I heard that music again. And I was like, uh-oh, here we go. Like, uh-oh, I did something bad. And so it started getting louder, louder, and louder. And I started freaking out. I was like, oh my God, here we go. I'm going to hell. And then all of a sudden it stopped. And then I heard the music, and then I started going up. And when I started going up, that music faded out. And then some reggae music started coming in. Yeah, I wasn't even into reggae at that time. I didn't even like reggae. So this is why it was really like, what the hell? And it was just so calming, cool, collected, just calm music. And I felt that wave of, oh, I'm safe. I'm going to be okay. All that stuff. And so I talked to God, and God was like, you know, you are the light. You need to be the light that I made you. You're special. Like, you need to be the light that you're supposed to be doing down here, bringing, because at that time I wasn't being the person that I am now, you know, putting smiles on people's faces, you know, bringing people together and all the stuff that I do nowadays. Like they were telling me up there, like, this is what you're supposed to be. So I was like, okay. I said, give me one more chance, please. Let me go back. And I don't know if it's man, woman, what it is, but they were like, okay, you get to go back. And then boom, I wake up and I'm going through hallucinations in the hospital. I guess I had woken up like a week before I started to be able to realize that what had happened to me because of all the drugs and the alcohol and the propofol and all the stuff that they keep you under, because it was an induced coma. For 3 weeks, I was in that coma, 18 days. There was fighting for my life. They had flown me. It turns out they had flown me from Tri-Cities is where I'm at, Tri-Cities, Washington, to Portland. Now, when they had called the helicopter, I guess like I died 2 times. So they brought me back. Yeah, they brought me back. My brother-in-law works at the hospital. And so he was there and heard the call for them to cancel the helicopter. So they were canceling the helicopter, and then they got me back, and they were like, whoa, okay, bring him back. They're like, keep them coming. So then they got me on the helicopter, flew me over there. It's the only time that I've been on a helicopter, and I wasn't awake to experience it.
Man.
And so turns out I was on that coma for 3 weeks. I woke up and I was just like asking my wife, like, well, I still had the tubes and everything in my mouth, right? For everybody out there, you can go to my YouTube page. On the bottom of my YouTube page, you should be able to find the video of me laying there in the coma and with the tubes and everything. Yeah, because turns out my mom came and got a little bit of footage of it. And so I was like, cool, you know what? I'm posting this on YouTube so that there's proof. And now everybody knows what I've been through. And, you know, and it's, you know, disclaimer, it's a little graphic. There's a big old tube of blood that comes from your, because they stick you in the jugular. This is where I got the scar from the jugular.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You know, and so they put me on the ECMO machine. The ECMO machine is to oxygenate your blood, and it bypasses your lungs. Now, turns out during COVID, this thing was in big like demand. You know, everybody needed it because there was the exact same thing. It was a virus that got into you and made so much mucus that you ended up drowning in it. You know, and that's what pneumonia is. So I was telling my mom, I'm like, hey, like, what was it? What happened? Was I in a car wreck? And she's like, no, mijo, you got sick. I'm like, what? I got sick. Like I was a big, strong, just I always thought I was invincible. But
Right.
this little virus, man, just came in, and it was God, because I know it was God because nobody else around me got sick. Only I did. I coughed in my wife's face. She never got sick. My kids never got sick. Nobody by me. Only me. So that's how I know that it's my journey. This was my thing. God was like, hey, stop your shit. You need to be who you're meant to be. And so when I came back and I had to learn how to walk again, I was dealing with the grief of being a survivor, because there's so many people who didn't survive,
Wow.
I had to go through a lot of stuff, and I was still drinking at this time. Now, when I was in the coma, after I woke up, I was going through a bunch of hallucinations for I'd say about 3 days, bunch of hallucinations. Well, these hallucinations, I saw where meth came from. I saw the devil put it into people's heads, the people from Hitler and all them who made it up, right? I saw them to go to the recipes, to the cooks, to the people selling it, to me over there hitting it. Like, it was a big eye-opening thing to where I was like, oh my God, this is real evil, because meth does turn off your conscience, which I think your conscience is kind of God right there. That's a little bit of God right in your heart, because it's written in your essence what not to do, bad things and all that. Well, meth turns that shit off. So you're going to go do whatever the fuck you're going to do, Well, so I stopped right there. Boom. Stopped touching meth. Didn't touch it since. It's been 8 years. Haven't touched it. Took me about another 4 months to get off the alcohol. Now, sir, let me tell you this much. When I got over the alcohol, that was it. It was just, I got over the hump. This is why I always tell everybody out there, if you guys are dealing with addiction, you're dealing with alcohol addiction, which is one of the hardest ones. As soon as you get over the hump and you've been away from it for like 3 weeks or a month or however long it takes, and you really don't want it no more, oh my God, everything changed, brother. I was just shining after that. I felt happy. I lost like 5 pounds every day. I lost 170 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was in the coma. I stopped meth. I stopped drinking, and I lost 170 pounds. Like that. Got a house.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely exactly what the road was supposed to take me down, and it was the best thing. Now, you could say that it was a bad thing, but I say it was a good thing, because
right.
I mean, like, look where I'm at now, man. It helped me so much to come out here and start to be like, well, one thing that did help too was the cannabis. That's why cannabis is the best. Everybody, cannabis. Every time that I would feel like, even to this day, if I feel like I need a drink or I want a drink, I'm like, no, go take a hit. Take 2 hits, let it out, boom, all that craving goes out the window. So I was like, there it is. That's the one thing that I fell in love with. Like, my first love was cannabis, and sure. I knew I should have stuck with it. That whole time I should have stuck with it, but it was always there. I was still smoking weed my whole time that I was doing all that shit. But after that, went all in on bud, man. I started growing, and I haven't looked back ever since. Haven't looked back.
I do got a few questions, because I can relate to a couple of your steps along the way, believe it or not. First off, you say you have gasoline. Yep. I'm going to admit, and this is on the record for the first time ever saying this on camera. You guys are hearing it first right here on Organically Blunt. I used to do that in high school.
Yep.
And I can tell you that literally out of everything I've ever tried, that was literally the best high I ever had. And a lot of people think I'm crazy when I say it, but it's good to finally meet somebody that has experienced it. Because for me, when I did it, my whole body would feel warm and numb.
Yep.
And it was the greatest feeling ever. And I've never done it since high school, but yeah, I can tell you that for somebody to be able to relate, that's amazing, because I thought I was one of the only ones that was dumb enough to do that.
Nah, brother, you're not the only one, and you're not dumb for doing it either, because we're all just like experimenting. And right. I mean, like there was an older kid who brought it to me and was like, "Here, try this. Like this is really good." And yes, you're right about that high, but it don't
Oh
for
yeah,
everybody out there. It only lasts
a couple
maybe
of seconds,
30
right?
seconds, maybe, and then you snap out of it and you come back and you're
Yep.
all feel all groggy and like shit. Like it was just weird. That one time though, yeah, that was the last time that I ever huffed gas. Was after that hallucination because I was
Definitely.
sitting there, I seen myself sitting there huffing it, and that music, that evil music was playing,
Ooh.
and then all of a sudden went, wah, and there was like
Whoa.
hundreds of me, just hundreds of me, just sitting there huffing that thing, and
Oh.
I bursted out of the fucking the little shed I was in, dropped
Yep.
gas all over me and shit, and like
Oh.
my mom and her boyfriend were like, "Why do you smell like gas?" And I was like, nothing." It was like, man. But yeah, I can relate with you, brother. I know about
Yeah,
that.
definitely. Definitely. And my other question, and I don't mean to bring up things that might bring up any bad memories of your past, but I have a lot of curiosity. And
Yep.
one of them, is my aunt and uncle were busted for the biggest meth lab in West Michigan. They
Oh,
put it inside a school bus. They got busted. They went to prison. They got out. They bought a house on the same property on a farmland and turned it into a meth lab and got busted a second time and are spending life in prison. So I can relate to that as a as a person. I've never experienced or tried it, but from what I heard, and maybe you can touch on this, is a lot of people start with like cocaine or coke and then they go to meth because the high lasts longer. Would you agree with that?
yes, I totally agree with that. I did that also. I started with coke when I was 13 years old. I hit my first little line of coke, so I was very
Sure.
young, out there doing shit that we shouldn't have been doing. But
Yep.
I did coke there for a minute, and no, as soon as I hit meth, it was over. I was like, "What the hell are we doing? Wasting time doing that bunk ass
Yep.
shit? Like,
Yep.
we need to be doing some shit that you're gonna be up for days. You know what I mean? Like, why are you going to be doing something for 20 minutes and then be looking for more, you know, because that's the thing for those
Yep.
who don't know, cocaine is one of the things, like you could do like a line, but as soon as you put it into a foil and you smoke it with some baking soda, it completely ruins everything and you are addicted and you just want to look for that more high and you just keep looking, like your mind is racing thinking about where can I get more, where can I get more, where can I get more, right? Well, meth isn't like that. You'll hit meth and like maybe a day later you'll want more, or maybe, but you'll be high for a while. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
that's why I stuck with the meth for a long time, actually. Now, when I say I stuck with the meth, I was a little bit more up here. I wasn't
Yep.
down here in the levels, so I wasn't a tweaker. I was more of a seller. So
Sure.
I always had the connections. People would just come and give me sacks because I've always been a cool guy. You know, I've always had the connection with people, and so people would just come over and be like, here's a sack for you, man. Here's a sack." And like I'd have like 3 people giving me sacks for free. So I'm just like always high, you know? And yeah, that was crazy times. I'll tell you that much. Crazy times.
Definitely. Yeah. Like I said, I can relate to that because my family. And then as far as alcohol, unfortunately, my dad's been an alcoholic my whole life. I'll be 40 this year, and he's been in prison, excuse me, for 38 and a half years.
Sorry
And
to hear that.
he gets out and he just cannot break the stigma of alcohol. He cannot get away to the point. I'm sure he's probably using, hooch in the prison because he's never broken, away from that.
The
And it,
curse, never broken the
yeah,
curse, man. You can't. The alcohol has you by the balls. It's got you by the balls, man. And it is one of the hardest things in the world to get off of. I was locked up one time, and we were drinking fucking coconut extract. Wait, yeah, coconut extract, and taking little shots of it, and it got you drunk like a
oh
shot of
yeah,
vodka. So I would definitely do that, man. Like anything. It took me forever to get off that shit, bro. Like
oh
I totally understand. And I have, rest in peace, Drew, one of my little homies. He just passed away from alcohol abuse and opiate abuse, which is really hard for me. That one is a hard one because I watched him and I knew that that was going to happen. And it's the hardest thing ever when you're sober and you're watching your friends
yep,
literally kill themselves because you know that you were killing yourself too. but you can't save them because
Nope.
it's everybody's own journey, and all you can do is be there to help and support them. And the moment that they are ready, when they're 100% really ready, they will not look back. Now, I have friends, another friend of mine who is he's in the process of trying to be sober, and he's the greatest guy ever when he's not drinking, man. But when he's drinking, he's a little bit annoying. And, you know, I get a little discouraged, but he's my homie and I'm not going to let him down. I'm not going to like leave. You know, I'm going to be sitting here every time that he wants to be sober. I'll be there. Don't worry about it. I got you.
Yep.
You know, whatever you need. And he's been very grateful of it, and he knows, but it's just just has you by the balls, man. So it's alcohol is the worst thing ever to me. I fucking hate it. I cannot believe that we are sitting here getting persecuted, silenced, all this for a plant that has not killed not one fucking person. But
exactly,
alcohol kills 183,000 people every year of alcohol abuse, DUIs, all this other shit. And it's totally normal. If you ask somebody, if somebody's like, oh, you don't drink anymore? Well, why not? Why not? What's going on? Do you have a problem? Blah, 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 right? But if you were like, nah, I don't drink water, they're like, okay, like nobody even bats an eye. But that's the crazy thing, is if you don't drink water, like, anyways, I'm sorry. Let's go on.
No, you're good. This show's open for anything, man. That's what it's about. And you know, I just laugh at how much me and you are similar in two different points in the United States, because they're literally having a party right now down the street at one of my homegirls that I went to high school with. Is like, I'm throwing a 90s party tonight. And I'm like, sweet, cool. And everybody from high school is showing up. And like, but it's all these people that, I hate to say it, did not grow up. They're like, oh, I'm buying bottles of this and that, and I'm getting faded and this and that. And I'm like, man, I'm ready to go to bed at 11 o'clock.
Exactly. Like, yeah.
How do you guys still do this? And you guys are in your 40s. I don't know, but my body can't handle that no more. Like,
yeah, man,
I'm getting old.
It is literally poison. It rots you from the inside. That's why these people who have been drinking all this time, they have all these issues. You know, one thing I know is that my breath really stunk all the time. My breath stunk because I was sitting here drinking all this stuff that was just killing my teeth. I was getting more drunk. I didn't want to go take care of my teeth. I had cavities and But why do that when you can just have a drink and really what it is you're running from your problems. You're running from all your issues and everything because you feel better while you're drinking. You're more open while you're drinking. Well, in reality, it's all the shit that's in you that you totally could be by yourself, because you don't need that shit. I found out, I was like, because when I started drinking, it was to be more social, right? I'm more talkative and stuff like that, because I wasn't talkative when I smoked weed. When I smoked weed, I was very quiet and laid back. And still to this day, that happens nowadays. But when when the high goes down a little bit, I'm back to talking. I'm back to being me and shit, like keeping the party going. Like, say I went to that party right now, right? I'd be having everybody just chilling, having a great time until because one thing is, when you see these people, their eyes glaze over a little bit and you tell they're starting to get really drunk, and it's like, all right, I'm out. Then that's when I'm like, nah, I don't like drunk people for some reason.
Me neither. I get nervous around them now. Like,
yeah, because they're unpredictable.
Yeah, from like 21 to 23, I could barely walk out of the bar. That's how bad I was drinking. But then it was just like, okay, this isn't fun anymore. I'm spending money to feel like shit the next day, literally. And I'm paying to feel like this. Like, this don't make sense. And then 2009, I became a medical patient here in Michigan, and I determined the plant, which I want to dive into with you about the plant more here, because that's what everybody's here for. Yeah. And but alcohol is one of the worst things. I got busted in 2009, the same time I became a medical patient. They put me on probation and everything. And they sent me to Alcohol Anonymous because they didn't have classes for cannabis.
For weed, yes, because there's no such thing, man.
Right. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I don't fit in here, and everybody's talking like, what's your problem? I smoked a joint at the lake and I got caught by the police. Like,
It's like
that's
on
my
a
problem.
it's like on a half baked where they're up there. I'm here for weed. Boo this man. You ever
Right.
suck dick for some weed? No, I can't say I have.
Right, exactly. So, you say you came across this plant at a younger age and smoked it. How old were you when you first tried it?
I was 13 when I first smoked my first joint. I remember back in those days that was the red bud, the brick bud,
Okay,
Mexican weed, which was very. I mean, hey, it was cheap and it got you high. So I remember my homeboy Hoser. He came through with like an ounce of weed, and back in those days we were like, "What the fuck? That's like $30 worth of weed." Or no, it was like $50 worth of weed back then. Where you can get an ounce. Oh man.
Okay.
Back in those days. And so we smoked. He came and we had this little abandoned car, and I'm from a little ass town. So, like, everybody knew everybody. And we had this abandoned car, and we just jumped in and we smoked, man, bro. Holy shit! I was so fucking blazed. This is back in the day when Little Caesars used to have these big rectangle pizzas, and they would have all the little squares. You remember that? Okay.
Yep. I went
I
to Little Caesars tonight, matter of fact, before the show.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I ate that whole pizza by myself, and my mom was like, she's like, "Damn, Hill, you're hungry." I was like, "Oh, yeah." Ever since then, that was it, bro. I was in love. I was hooked, and I loved weed. Now, I did blaze for a long time, but then I was like, I want to be more social, and I want to be more partying with everybody. And, when you're all sitting there smoking weed, you're the rational one. So when you're in there just smoking weed, you're like, yo, this is fucking dumb. Like, you don't want to be around a bunch of people fighting, yelling, fucking getting all crazy and shit like that. So I was like, well, I want to be like them. So I started drinking. And then I found out that I really liked drinking. I was really good at it. So then I started drinking. But that, man, now that I look back at it, that was like 3 Bud Lights, maybe 2 Bud Lights. And I would be all fucked up, puking and shit, all fucked up. But
yeah.
And at the end of my drinking cycle, I got up to a half gallon of 100 proof vodka almost every day.
Damn.
And I'd still be conscious enough to leave a little bit so I can have in the morning. And yeah, my body almost gave out many times over that shit. So I would stop drinking the vodka and then just go to malt liquors, 211s.
Ooh.
Have like 3 of those just to get up in the morning. Like, it was bad, brother. It was bad. And that's why I swelled up to the 350, 400 pounds. At my heaviest, I was 404. So, yeah, man. And one of these things I wanted to tell everybody, another thing is one of my rock bottoms, because a rock bottom is something that I don't want to say it, but you have to get to as an alcoholic.
Oh, yeah.
Where you could be like, yo, I don't want this shit anymore. One of my rock bottoms is when I was being moved in the hospital from the coma. I was too big for them to pick me up, so they put me in this fucking crane, and there's literally like a cow put me in this crane and lifted me up, and I was just hanging there, in a circle, like kind of moving in a circle a little bit, and I just go moo. The nurse starts laughing, and I was like, I just kept thinking that I was the cow from Jurassic Park. And so the one that gets fed to the fucking raptors. And so I was just like, this is it. Like, this is my rock fucking bottom, dude. And so I was like, I'm done. I can't fucking do this anymore. So from that moment on is when I started getting no alcohol, at least. Definitely done with that.
Definitely. I always joke about my family. I have 3 sisters, and I weigh 145 pounds soaking wet, and my sisters were 450, 550, 350.
They were healthy.
I always used to, and not to tease them, they worked on it hard, but everybody used to say, well, what happened to you? And I always say, well, I couldn't get to the table fast enough.
Oh, shit. Yeah, you got the family jokes and shit.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm sorry, and they're like, you don't even look like you're fit. Well, I don't know, I can't help you there. So, but, definitely, but I can relate, I come to this from a similar type of family. And unfortunately, the town I live in here that I grew up in is a one blinking light town. And
Oh yeah.
they're either alcoholics or they're addicted to meth. Like literally, you would not think meth would be in a small town like this.
Oh
It
no,
is
the small towns,
everywhere.
yeah, small towns is where meth like thrives the most because there's nothing to do but get
Yep.
high, man. Get high
Yep.
and go to the bar. I like, and the
Yep.
bar is one of the places that I hated the most because like my mom would just be in the bar all the time, and that's why even when I was drinking and not a big alcoholic, I wouldn't go to the bars because I hated the people there. You always have somebody just ready to start some shit in a bar. Like
Yep.
it's just full of people who they think they're having fun, you know, because we're programmed to think that you're supposed to be socializing out there and having fun and spending all this crazy money to drink fucking poison. But
Yeah.
no, I hated the bars.
So yeah, me too. So you got into growing. When
Yes.
did you discover not only that you wanted to grow the plant, but the capability and the know-how to do so?
Okay, so what had happened was I remember I had always wanted to grow weed. I always thought that it was fascinating how this plant grew and like how it looks and everything. But back in those days, there was zero access to it. Anybody who grew did not want you to know about it. They did not, because, you know, for good reason. You would get your doors kicked in, you'd get your kids taken away, you would get your money stolen. Like it was straight up like you had a meth lab or something if you grew 20 plants. You know, that was crazy back in those days. So I never got to see them, but I was always fascinated with it. Then one day we were like, well, I'm gonna try it. So we put one in like, you know, the windowsill. You know,
Yep.
a lot of people start out like that, and it's fucking more props to you, man. As long as anything to get that the spark going is where I highly suggest trying out. So with that plant, we only got one little nug off of it, and it was, hey, we smoked it, and hey, at least I grew it myself, so I was happy about that, right? Well, and then we bought my house after the coma and everything, bought a house, and so we had our own property. Well, now my friend is like, hey, since you got your own property, man, I have these plants that were given to me. Can I give them to you and you grow them out? And I was like, oh, fucking course, bro. Bring it over. Fuck yeah, dude. So he brought over these big fucking plants, and they were like the biggest I had ever seen at that time. So I was so fascinated, so excited, just all these new things just coming to me, and I'm like, I want this. I am doing this. So I put it outside in my big ass pots, and we grew them. Well, it turns out one of them was a Charlotte's Web, CBD.
Oh,
Yes. So for those who don't know, the Charlotte's Web was a strand created for this little girl named Charlotte. She was having seizures, like 200 seizures every day. Like it was super bad. So they started producing this only CBD plant. So the CBD plant was real small. It was like a rurales, which is an autoflower, but it was real small and it stayed stunted the whole time. But it grew big nug though. It was one fat fucking nug, just one nug. And so I was like, at the time, I was like, I don't know what's up with this plant, but this other one's growing really big. So I kept growing it out. It flowered and they were full of seeds. Oh man, I don't even know how it pollinated. I don't know what happened. If it hermied, I don't know because I didn't know at that time. But it was, hey, I grew it, so we tried it again. Well, then I was already hooked from that day right there, that harvest. I was hooked. I was like, I'm YouTubing as much stuff as I can. When I YouTubed, I found Mr. Canucks Grows, Mr. Grow It, and Pigeons 420. So shout out to Pigeons 420. This Pigeons, I'd say Pigeons was the one who actually helped the most because he like took you through everything. He showed you how he broke the membrane and the stem. He showed you a lot of stuff, but he didn't show his face at this time. So we never knew exactly what he looked like. Because everything had to be, you know, on the download. And so I was like, okay, went to the hydro store here or the grow store here in my town. And I went with my wife and I was like, baby, like, I don't have no money. I didn't have any money, barely had a job at this time. I was still recovering from everything. I was trying to get on disability. And I was like, baby, if you buy this kit for me, I promise you, I will grow you the best bud ever. And she's like, you know what? I think you could do it. And I was like, all right, baby. So we bought the tent, the light. We had a HPS light at that time. And I got to it, brother. And I'll tell you this much. I fucking killed the first real harvest. Oh, man. It was so great. It was so good. I think it was a Pineapple Express. And then she tasted like pineapple too.
Oh yeah,
it came out so good. I was using general hydroponic nutrients, which with those ones, all you didn't have to pH anything. All you had to do was mix it, throw it in, feed them. And so I did that. It came out perfect. But one thing that was happening before I knew, because I still didn't know, but the stretch would happen, and the stretch would go up and touch the light. And so with HPSs and all that, it gets really hot, and so it burnt the buds, and I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of pushed them over, and it was a learning experience. I'll tell you that much. Definitely a learning experience.
Pigeons is a great guy. He's a good friend of mine, and so is Mr. Grow It, and they're both very educated. There's a lot you guys don't see on this backside of the camera. I'm the newbie. I call it the newbie of the podcast industry. I'm the guy who asks all the questions that are. Some people say it's a dumb question. Some people say
there is no dumb questions. Yeah, there is no dumb.
Some people will say you ask questions on literally everything. If I want to know something, I ask them. Like I'm asking them about cameras. I'm asking them how to set up the set. I'm asking them about their thumbnails. I'm asking them literally everything you can think of that people would be afraid to ask, and that they're willing to help me out. So I've always thanked them. When I started out growing, I didn't have any of that neither, but I had Jorge Cervantes's Grow Bible. But as far as YouTube went, my guys was from Seed to Stoned and the Growers Roundtable with Subcool, and a few of the other guys would get on there and stuff like that back in the day. That's where I got my knowledge starting out. But a couple of them guys I can relate to, because pretty soon it trickled into Mr. Grow It and Pigeon and all them other guys. And I'm just like, holy shit, this thing is a lot bigger than I thought. I thought I was just being hush-hush here. But all these people have been at it a lot longer than I have.
Yeah, I know, right? This was like, 5 years ago, too? Almost about 5 years ago. And so, I was stupid surprised. Rob from CLTV, don't forget about him. He's there, too. And Trey Strong's. I saw their video on how to roll a blunt, and I was just blown away. I was like, wow, I've always wanted to roll a good blunt, and I could never fucking do it, but they just broke it down so easily, and I was like, wow, this is a new thing, like cannabis content. This is a cool thing, you know? So there was before, because I was growing before I did an Instagram, right?
Me too, yeah.
Good. One of my friends, my coworkers, he's sitting here and he's like, you know what, dude? He's like, your personality and the way you are, that'd be great for Instagram. And I was like, what? I don't want that shit. And he's like, no. You need to be on Instagram. You like to flex a lot. You like, you don't really get into the whole politics thing, but you just like flex and are cool. So you would do good with Instagram. And I'm like, all right, let's try it out. And I just tried it out. And I was doing the pigeons thing where I didn't want to show my face for a while. And then my boss was like, hey man, you got a good face and nice smile. Like you're good with people. You should show your face. And I was like, all right, okay, let's do it. And so I did it. And after that has just been killing it. Also Yanni Supreme, she is the one who got me on the podcast first. She was the one that I had jumped on her show. And I was like, you know what? I could do this. And so then I took over and I started doing my thing.
Yep. I know how that goes. And, we're both podcast content creator hosts. You know the amount of work that goes into this type of stuff. It is a never ending job. And I was the same way. I started out as an audio podcast, and I was a 3-piece show. I had 2 co-hosts, my brother and my best friend. My brother, he got too busy with life and his woman, and he was in his 20s trying to figure shit out. My best friend is the same age as him, in the 20s. I'm an old guy. I'm the OG. And kind of can relate with, the friend becoming the alcoholic and trying to get sober. Well, my friend Twiggy from the show lost his grandmother during the show. And he lost all his friends. He just shout us all out. I haven't talked to him in years. It's been going on 3 years, and he just don't reach out. He don't reply, nothing. And come to find out, he turned into an alcoholic. I talked to his brother
No.
2 days ago, and this is the type of kid that drinks himself to go to sleep. And it's like, man, I don't know what happened. I can't help him, but I hope he can figure it out before it's too late, you know?
Yeah, we need to not don't give up on him, man. One thing you don't want to do is give up on somebody who has potential.
Right.
There is a thing that goes with alcoholism that I know for a fact is we're all fighting some demon inside that
Yep.
we have not dealt with. We have not processed the grief or anything like that has led to that. Now, me, I had a bunch of stuff happen in my life that just turned out it was a bunch of trauma that I just was not dealing with, and I was angry about it. And so the anger will definitely lives with alcohol. Now everybody says,
Oh,
"Oh
yeah.
no, you know, you can get better, you feel better." No, it's still anger, and the bottom line is anger. And so once I started to deal with it, because I had listened a lot to in the classes of alcohol, NA or AA classes, because they forced me to go because of all the times I got in trouble, right? Well, when you force somebody to go, it's not going to really work because you're forcing them. So, but some of the shit did stick in my head. So I got away from a lot of the people that I didn't. Now, when you said that your friend like ghosted everybody, I kind of thought like maybe he got sober, because that's what I did. I had to ghost a lot of people that I really wanted to be friends with again, but I
Yep.
couldn't because they're still drinking. And every time that I'm with them, I felt like the thing I had to do was be drinking with them. Right.
Right.
And
This was the opposite. I mean, I don't mean to cut you
oh,
off. Like,
yeah.
like basically, he had a great support system. We were all great friends. I literally taught him how to grow. He was getting into it. He was the green newbie of the group, and he was a kid that wanted to learn everything. And it was great because I felt like I was teaching and educating and passing something on that I was taught. And you know, he just literally cut ties off like nothing, and it's been that way for years and no explanation. And you're like, well, I hope he's okay. And then his brother rose up next to me in the B-Dubs parking lot 2 nights ago, and he's like, how you been? And I'm like, great. And he's like, have you heard about my brother? I'm like, no. He's like, well, he fell asleep at the wheel and he didn't crash, but he actually pulled over. He drifted to the side of the road, pulled over, and he was an hour from home and at work. He was drinking on his way home, and he really tired, and he pulled over. Luckily, the car came to a stop and everything, but he was dead out when we got to him, drunk. And you know, this he's drinking every night now, and he's drinking himself to go to sleep. And I'm like, man, I sure hope and pray that, you know, he finds his solution and it's not the alcohol, because
Yes.
yeah,
He needs to work with whatever it is in that is traumatizing, which is his mother's death or the death that happened. He has not processed that, and he needs
right.
to
Yep.
process it, man. He needs to face his demons. He's got to face it. And let me tell you this much: it is a fucking bitch
Oh, yes.
to face all the shit that you have done. Like, oh my god, I had to get with my kids and like really sit them and apologize for all the times that I yelled at them, beat them, all this shit. Did so many things, man. So many things to my wife, just everybody. I just made everybody around me hate me. I mean, they love me, but like, you know, you got that alcoholic that you're just like, man, when he's drinking, he's a fucking asshole, you
Oh,
know?
yes.
And
Yep.
so, and that's what happened. And I always said that when I would, if I ever got to that point where I would be an asshole, then fucking I needed to quit, you know. And I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit so fucking bad, but that shit just has a hold of you, man. And it's so
Sure.
hard to get off of that shit.
Definitely. So I want to dive into more about growing here, and not so much sad things. Sorry to be
Yeah.
sad about
Sorry,
everything.
everybody.
Yeah, but you know, so you got into growing. She helped you get your first kit and everything, and you probably perfected your craft a little bit better now than where you began. So,
Yeah.
what is your preferred way of growing? Are you soil? Are you hydro?
I am soil all the way. There's a lot of people who want to try to get me into hydro and to cocoa or something like that, but I'm just soil, man. I love the way the buds come out. I love the whole ambiance, or the way that it works. You know, the microbes in the soil, and you feed your soil, which your soil will feed your plant. You know, I'm really big into that nowadays.
Definitely. And I'm glad that you're advocating for, home grower rights and everything like that as well, because here in Michigan, they tried to take that away on almost a daily. And we do a yearly rally at our Capitol building, right on the stairs of the Capitol building. I mean, there's lawyers, judges, police officers, legislation, everybody walking in and out of the building daily. Why thousands of people are lining up to talk and tell their stories. It's a great movement, and we have to continue to do that, because
Yes.
If they schedule it to a schedule, what is it? A schedule 3 they're
It's
working
3 right
on?
now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the next scheduling they're trying to get it to. If they do that, here's the thing that people aren't realizing, and I don't mean to discuss it and dive into this and take up time here, but I live literally down the road from Bayer Corporation. Do you know what Bayer is, right?
Yes. Yeah, pharmaceutical company.
Medical pharmaceutical. And what they make down the road here from me is they make your rock salt and stuff, believe it or not, ice melt and stuff that your road commissions and stuff use for melting snow and ice on the roads. Bayer Corporation does that. Yes, Bayer has their hands in more than you think. So let me break this down real quick, because I don't want to get too winded here. But Bayer Corporation bought a company that is well known in the soil industry. I can't remember the name of it off the top. Well, that soil company actually bought out. The reason they bought them is because they were involved in the cannabis industry. But that company bought out Miracle Grow in 2006. Miracle Grow, we all know how great that is for growing these plants, and how sick you can get off it and everything. It's good for vegetables, but you're not inhaling vegetables into your lungs.
Yes, it is not designed to combust.
Right. So what they're doing, the reason they are pushing for the schedule, and they're so happy, and they acquired Miracle Grow and the cannabis brands that go with it, is because when they reschedule to that medical, they want to take that cannabis and put it into a pill form, because which I support this point, to the point for senior citizens who might have been against it all these years, and they're prohibited against it. They grew up in that area.
Because they're still brainwashed. They're still brainwashed about to think, okay, now the thing let's go into that subject. The whole reason of prohibition is bullshit, okay? The way that they started calling it marijuana is because they tried to scare the American people of Mexicans. And this is where I think it's fucking bullshit, and I draw the line right there. That's why I don't call it marijuana. I call it cannabis. Because I call it cannabis because when you say marijuana, is the way that the fucking government was trying to scare white people against Mexicans. And that's where it's like, no. The whole world loves cannabis. There's thousands of names for cannabis, okay? It's not just marijuana. But anyways, back to what you were saying.
Yeah, and what their plan is great to putting that in there, but at the same time, here's what they're not telling you. They're trying, if that passes, Bayer Corporation is going to be just like Philip Morris. They are going to take over so heavily, they're going to push to get rid of caregiver rights, because why would they need home growing and caregiving if you can get it in a pill form? And that's the bad point of it. The good point is it's going to help the senior citizens who don't have the capability, or they don't want to grow, they don't want to inhale, they don't want the effects other than the medical side of things, which they've seen results in schizophrenia and Alzheimer's, which is great. But, it boils down to, we could all lose our right to grow this plant. So if you have the right in your state, please stand up for your rights to grow it, because without them, you might not be able to know what you're putting in your body. And I don't agree with that.
One thing I really don't agree with, or I don't like, is how they would try to do that. Philip Morris is actually trying to get into the cannabis company, and they're already starting to try to fucking do things, which they're bringing their bullshit policies with it and their bullshit ways of producing this stuff, which is cut it. Cut it with as much stuff. That's what they do. Tobacco, man. There's real tobacco, these native cigarettes, and they don't taste like these other ones because they cut it with a bunch of shit. Yep. So that's what, like, for some reason, I don't know how this happened out here, but in the dispensaries and everything, for some reason, joints are lesser. So now they're gonna put pre-rolls. They're gonna put a little bit of cut in it. Just a little bit of cut, right? Man, because I could taste that cut a mile away. That spiciness and shit. I could smell it. I could taste it, and it's bullshit. Because joints are really good when you put puro flower in it and don't add no cut. Like if they wanted to, just make more extracts with that cut. Just do something else with the cut. Don't put it in the fucking joints. Damn. And so that I feel like that is a tactic of corporations right there. That's the start of it, right? And then you have these corporations that come in with their big money and they take over little jobs and little places that, a person worked a long time to get to, man. And there's a lot of people out there. One thing that I think is bullshit is that there are people still getting arrested, still getting locked up for cannabis when there's other people around here in my state and your state. They're making money off of this. They're selling it as a commodity. If you're selling it as a product, there should not be anybody getting locked up for it and kicked away and there's doors kicked in and all that shit. Like, it's ridiculous. And the Last Prisoner Project is one thing I wanted to bring up. That needs to be like, we need to be spreading the word on the Last Prisoner Project. That's Let's Be Buds and everybody out there, Chad Wedgeport, everybody supports it. If you're in the cannabis community, you should support this. And that is about getting out as many people as we can that have been arrested and are still incarcerated for non-violent cannabis offenses. That's one thing. Everybody, you need to go out there and keep an eye out and try to vote for people who are in interest of saving cannabis, man, and not letting it go to these corporations. Now, I do think that the descheduling is a move in the right direction. At least it's not being characterized with heroin or all this other stuff, right? I mean, and the government works fucking slow. So we need to take every little bit that we can, because right now it's just, it's the little wins that matter. I love that hat, brother. Oh my God, I want that hat so bad.
Oh, this hat's everywhere I go. Everybody says, man, I love your hat. I mean, and I'll try to show it. It's got buds on it, guys. Check that out.
So sick, man.
And if you guys ever want more of these hats, a lot of brands have them with their logo. I'm going to take it off because my head's sweating. But a lot of brands have them. It's Alpine Hemp Company. And Alpine Hemp makes hats for so many brands out there. There is a big buy-in, so if you're a small brand like me, it could be very expensive. I know I've already reached out to them because I want some sick hats like that, but I'm not to that level yet. But someday I will get there. And that dives me into two final questions before we let you go here. And the first question being, you run a podcast, so let's tell the people that aren't familiar about it exactly what your podcast is called, where they can find it, and just give us a little rundown about it.
So my podcast is called CannaConvos. It is back there. CannaConvos is the logo. I have basically, it's anybody out there that's in the community that has good vibes and knows about how growing. Actually, as a matter of fact, it's not just growing. I've had musicians on, MB Writers, Zigzag from MB Writers I've had on. I have some more big names booked there. They're going to be coming on. So if you guys wanted to come find me, it's on YouTube. And basically all we do is talk cannabis, cool things, like crazy stories. We're just chilling, man. We have a good time. So if you wanted to come check me out on YouTube, I have my YouTube page up, and there's many, many episodes on there. There's a lot of people on there. There's Mr. Grow It, Pigeons, Zigzag MB Writers, fucking half of the community, the growing community out there. I'm going to get Organically Blunt on. You're going to be on so I can interview you one time. And you want to come check me out on the Instagram too. On my Instagram, I'm more prominent, and I'm posting all the time, and I will be posting updates of who we have next, who we got, book. I make edibles, all this stuff. I do a lot of stuff on Instagram.
That's awesome, definitely. And that leads me to my final question before I actually give you the mic one more time at the end here to kind of give yourself some self promotion here. But the final question that Organically Blunt is based on, there is a rule to this question I have to lay down before I ask it, and that is you cannot think of your answer. The first thing that pops in your head has to be blurted out. So, with
Okay.
that being said, here we go. If you could smoke with anybody dead or alive, who would it be and why?
SPM. Why?
Okay.
Because man, he was an idol when I was growing up. That's why when he gets out, we're blazing, yo. If I could, I'm gonna hook up with him, bro, throw a sack up on stage. Like that would be my top one. If you don't know, SPM stands for South Park Mexican. He's a rapper who is incarcerated for about 20 years. He's been incarcerated, but he came out with a song called Mary Jane or Merry Go Round. I'm sorry, on a lot of. He was like one of the biggest Mexican rappers back in the day, so and one of the first. So him all the way, SPM.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm familiar with his music. Yes.
Nice,
The
good.
yeah, I was thinking the other day, it's my buddy, he lives out in Cali. He's a good friend of mine, and I asked him the same question, even though he's never been on the show, just a curiosity, and he said Boosie, and I'm like,
Lucy.
oh, I'm like, that's a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. That is
Yeah, that's a
definitely
good
good.
one.
So,
Boosie would be hella cool to blaze with.
yeah, definitely. And everybody's like, "Oh, he's getting out." Well, when? Because everybody's been waiting. Like, if I ever get the chance, and I could interview him, I would.
Yeah. He's out right now, as a matter of fact. I think he
Is
is.
he?
He might have
Okay.
gotten locked back up, but I think he's out right now. He does a lot of interviews on Vlad TV. Um,
Okay.
Vlad TV's on YouTube. You can look him up, and Boosie's on there a lot. I like
That
Boosie.
would be cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, where can everybody find you if they want to connect with you once again? And is there anything else you want us to know before we let you go?
You can come find me on YouTube under Sly, aka Loco, and that is with no underscores. And you could also find me on Instagram, Sly, aka underscore or Sly underscore aka underscore Loco. You can find me on Social Club. You can find me on. I think I might have a Twitter too. And yeah, as for sponsors, I wanted to shout out High Photon Flux LEDs. Make sure to go show them some love. OG Splifferson, Defiant Seed, Mr. Crow with Pigeons, just Chad Westport, Let's Be Buds, Emily Anything Growth, Spartan, just so many people out there, man. Yanni Supreme, make sure to go show her some love. She's a manager now. She's not growing weed anymore, but she got me started doing this, so I got to give her a lot of love. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it. I'm using Blue Mat watering system. I want you guys to go check that out. The watering system, Stash Blend, show them some love. Micro Life, hydroponics, you can show them some love. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Definitely, definitely. I work with Blue Mat too. I was actually just reaching out to them last week.
Nice.
I was talking to my rep over there, well, the half owner, and he was like, "Well, how do you like it so far?" And I was like, "I love their products." I was like, "I'm trying." So my dilemma is, and it's coming, guys. We haven't showed anything yet. Is I'm setting up a 4x2 for autoflowers with a living soil bed, but I need it to be hands off as possible because I'm on the road so much. So we're developing a way for me to put a smaller reservoir, and I have a guy that does 3D printing, but he's in Canada. We're gonna build a shelf that'll actually mount onto two of the bars in there, inside the tent, up above the canopy. I know it'll be under the light, kind of defeats the purpose because it does warm the water up to a pretty decent temperature, but it's going to be my reservoir, but I want everything to be inside the tent. So like
Okay.
we're trying to develop a way to do this and make it efficient to where, if my carrot needs water for the watering system, it can pull it right there, and I don't have to have anything outside the tent. Even though I know it's better to be outside the tent, and it's got to be so many feet above your soil level for
Yeah.
gravity to work, because I have it on my other tent. And it's like so we're working on developing a system that'll work for this So it'll be interesting what we come up with, definitely. So keep your eyes peeled. I want to touch on the next episode we have coming up here on Memorial Day night. If anybody wants to dive in, we're going to be going over, I will release the guest probably tomorrow. But he does a tour across the United States, and he does all the testing and everything on site at your cannabis events, so you know exactly what you're putting in your body right then and there. And also, if you grow something and you want it tested, you're not paying an arm and a leg to do it, because he does it at affordable prices. So it'll be fun to dive into that as well. And you're always welcome to come back on this show at any time. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your evening. If you can't stay lit, stay organically blunt, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for checking us out. Have a good night.
Thanks for watching Organically Blunt. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe up front. Shout out to our partners helping us grow. Seedsman Genetics, the pros you know. Country roots, soil, and grassroots too. Grow bags, get your turfs just like new. Gorilla Grow 10 kind, LEDs shining bright. Seeds, Green Wolf, keeping your grow just right. Just right. Extreme gardening and smoking storks so fly. Use code Organically Blunt and give them